There is a version of you the world cannot move. Not because it doesn't try, but because it no longer owns the strings. This self does not chase approval. It does not shrink for comfort. It does not perform for survival. It creates its own gravity. But that version of you doesn't come by accident. It is built, carved, forged in silence, in failure, in brutal, radical honesty. Because if you want to build a self so strong, the world can't shake it. You have to stop building on what was never yours. The lies, the masks, the borrowed dreams, the unconscious fear passed down like inheritance. Burn it. Every part that isn't rooted in truth must go. Not out of rage, but out of reverence. You don't build strength by becoming more of what they like. You build it by becoming undeniably who you are. Most people are not broken. They are buried. Under expectations they never question. Under identities they never chose. Under shame they inherited before they had words. And so they walk the world with smiles that don't reach their eyes. They achieve but never arrive. They speak but never say what matters. They succeed in public and fracture in private. This is not because they are weak. It's because no one taught them. You cannot build a strong self on a false foundation. So let this be the demolition. Let this be the quake that cracks the illusion. Let this be the undoing before the becoming. Because everything you want to be already lives within you. It's just been waiting for you to stop apologizing for its power. Psyphoria, the holy madness of returning to yourself. This is the first step to awaken the fire that has never left. To feel the electricity beneath the numbness. To touch the wild edge of your own potential and not flinch. Most people are scared of intensity, but you were made to carry it. Your intensity isn't too much. It's too honest for a world addicted to masks. It's too real for people committed to pretending. It's too alive for systems built on sedation. Psyphoria is not a breakdown. It is a breakthrough. It is the collapse of who you thought you needed to be. So who you are can finally breathe. And yes, it will shake you. Yes, it will cost you. But in return, it will give you a self so rooted in reality. No storm can move it. Mindset is not an accessory. It is the engine, the internal architecture from which all strength rises. You cannot build a powerful self with weak thoughts. You cannot build endurance with self-pity. You cannot build clarity with victimhood. The mind must be trained like a blade forged in sacred heat. Not with delusion, but with devotion. Devotion to truth, to resilience, to the kind of self-talk that doesn't flatter, but fortifies. This is not about being positive. It's about being precise, seeing things as they are, not as fear distorts them. Because once your mind is trained to see reality clearly, it stops bending to chaos. It starts bending reality itself. Belief is the blueprint. You can only build what you believe is possible. And most people are not limited by ability. They are limited by the poverty of their belief. Belief is not about wishful thinking. It's about internal law. It's about knowing at your core that who you are becoming is non-negotiable. Every strong self is built on a set of beliefs that are so deep, so grounded, they become untouchable by doubt. And when belief is that solid, action becomes automatic. Discipline becomes sacred. Direction becomes clear. What you believe, not what you say. builds the framework of your life. So ask yourself, are your beliefs made of steel or sand? Are they rooted in your truth or someone else's fear? Because the world will always test you. And only the self built on unshakable belief will rise again unmoved. Clarity cuts deeper than motivation. A strong self doesn't chase everything. It chooses with ruthless precision, with unapologetic focus, with the calm of someone who knows what they came here to build. Most people are tired not because they do too much, but because they do too much of what doesn't matter. Clarity is the knife that cuts through the noise, that severs the distractions, that says no 1,000 times. So it can say yes once with full power. You don't find clarity in comfort. You find it in collision. When the lies you've told yourself finally clash with the truth you can't ignore. That's when the fog lifts. That's when the path appears. That's when you begin. You cannot build a self so strong. It can't be shaken. If you're still confused about who you are and what you stand for, so decide, then build everything around it. Vision is memory from the future. It is not fantasy. It is not hope. It is instruction. A strong self does not wander. It walks with conviction. It acts not from impulse, but from vision burned into the soul. You must see it before anyone else does. Feel it before it makes sense. Move as if it's already real. This is how you collapse time. This is how you defy circumstance. This is how you become inevitable. You don't build a fortress of self by reacting. You build it by creating the conditions ahead of time. And the blueprint lives inside your vision. If your vision doesn't scare you, you're not thinking big enough. If it doesn't make you weep, you're not deep enough. Hold the vision, even when they mock it, even when you doubt it, even when everything around you screams, stay small. Because the moment you drop it, the world wins. But the moment you become it, the world changes. Purpose is not something you find, it's something you remember. It's the thing that's been whispering your name in the quiet moments, in the chaos, in the ache you couldn't explain. Purpose is not always pretty, but it's true, and it's worth everything. The strong self is not just disciplined. It is driven by meaning. It does not wake up to tasks. It wakes up to why. Your purpose is not always grand, but it is always sacred. And when you anchor your identity in purpose, you cannot be moved by distraction. You cannot be seduced by shallow applause. You become anchored in the eternal. This is how you build a self that can endure the seasons, the betrayals, the failures, the noise, because its roots are in something deeper than this moment. Purpose is your core. And when that core is strong, nothing can break you. Discipline is not punishment. It is the ritual of your future self calling you forward. It is the structure your greatness demands, not for comfort, but for becoming. Without discipline, desire turns to decay. Without discipline, potential drowns in distractions disguised as progress. Without discipline, you build castles out of ideas that collapse in reality. Discipline is the invisible wall that holds your chaos in check. It is the quiet oath you take in the dark that says, I will not abandon myself today. Not when it's boring. Not when it's hard. Not when no one claps. Every time you show up when it's inconvenient, you etch strength into your nervous system. Discipline isn't about control. It's about devotion to something bigger than your mood, to something truer than your fear, to the self that you know exists on the other side of excuses. The world will try to buy your attention. Your ego will try to buy your comfort. But discipline makes you wealthy in identity. Because you didn't just want it, you earned it. And what you earn, you never fear losing. Action is the only language the future understands. You cannot think your way into strength. You have to move. Now, not when the timing is perfect. Not when you feel ready. No, because clarity lives on the other side of movement. Confidence lives on the other side of effort. And identity, the strong self you're building, is forged in what you do repeatedly, not in what you say you'll do someday. Do it with doubt. Do it while your voice shakes. Do it when your shadow screams. Do it when your mind pleads to stay hidden. Every action becomes a message to your unconscious. I trust myself. I'm real. I am here to build. And the more you move in truth, the less power the world has over you. Because a person who takes aligned action consistently is a person the world cannot stop. You don't need perfect. You need proof. And proof is what action gives you. Resilience isn't bouncing back. It's rising differently, stronger, wiser, sharper, more whole. Life will hit you. That's not a question. The question is, what will you become when it does? Most people think resilience is endurance. It's not. It's integration. It's saying, this broke me, but I use the pieces to rebuild with sharper edges. Resilience doesn't mean you don't bend. It means you don't break permanently. It means you reclaim your pieces and make them sacred. The self that cannot be shaken is not the one who avoided pain, but the one who walked through fire and built themselves within it. They didn't wait for the world to go easy. They hardened their resolve. They softened into truth. They stopped performing and started transforming. Resilience is not a mood. It is identity in motion. It is when your soul becomes heavier than circumstance and you start bending reality from within. Learning is what keeps you unshakable, because you will fall. You will get it wrong. You will be humbled by your own blind spots. But if your identity is built on growth, you don't collapse. You expand. Strong people aren't flawless. They are flexible. They study their mistakes like sacred texts. They dissect their triggers like scientists of the soul. They don't fear discomfort. They decode it. They don't deny ignorance. They dismantle it. You must never confuse intelligence with awareness. You can be smart and still be ruled by fear. You can be educated and still act from your wounds. But the person who learns from everything, from silence, from conflict, from their failures, from their shadow, that person becomes undeniable because they evolve faster than the world can define them. And the self that can evolve like that becomes untouchable. And now you arrive, not as someone new, but as someone real, reclaimed, restored, remembered. All the work, all the fire, all the tears that never had language led here to this version of you that does not flinch in the face of pressure, that does not bow for shallow love, that does not fracture under the weight of opinions. This version of you does not need permission to exist. It knows. It knows its value, its voice, its vision. It does not need to be the loudest. It only needs to be aligned. The world will still try to shake you. The critics will still speak. The storms will still come. But you are not rooted in the weather anymore. You are rooted in self. And nothing built from the outside can move what was built from within. You didn't just wake up. You didn't just survive. You rose from the wreckage with new hands. You built a foundation from broken stone. You became someone that no illusion could touch. That is how you build a self so strong. The world cannot shake it. Not by becoming harder, but by becoming whole. Not by performing strength, but by embodying truth. And now the world will try, but it will not move you, because what lives in you now is unchangeable. And you will walk through life as a force of nature wrapped in a soul that finally came home.